What is up, YouTube and Twitter? I have Ovi Clapbomb. Everybody knows him from X, formerly Twitter. I still call it Twitter. It's like the Sears Tower, Willis Tower thing. But
It'll
we
always be
see
Twitter.
that he has the face reveal
And
tattoos.
I got a little bit excited for draft time, and I know you just came back from the combine, so I felt like it was a perfect time to hop on and maybe just talk about how we're feeling.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it because I want your thoughts on the Blackhawks pick at 3, and I'll give my thoughts. But after the combine, seeing all the measurements, who is your pick at 3, and who are some player options?
I mean, obviously, Michael Misa is still my guy. It doesn't look like that's going to present itself as an opportunity for the Blackhawks. So for me, it's a pretty consistent tie between Martone and Haggins. Um, I feel like today I'm leaning Haggins a little bit. If we're missing out on Misa and that, high end skill, dynamic player, it almost feels like Haggins is that player, like a junior version of that player. Like he is very high end skill, probably best hands in the draft, arguably. Um, and he's not that 6'1" frame. That's the only really thing. If he's 6'1", then we're talking about James Haggins in the same conversation as Michael Misa, or certainly less so than we are now. So I think right now I'm leaning Haggins because I feel like we need that running mate for Bedard. I think Haggins really checks that box. And to me, if we're gonna go out and get Demidov last year, who is a 5'11" winger, uh, like why are we so worried about size this year, right? Um, I mean, I understand it, but let's just take the best player in the draft. Let's take the most skilled player in the draft and put him next to 98 and just watch some magic. So that's where I'm at today. Just take Haggins or Martone. Don't big brain this and make it happen, Katie.
Love it. I think that I'm on the same board with you. I want to dive a little bit into the Haggins and Porter Martone thing real quick, but before I do, can I ask you, you saw the Cam Robinson tweet about the Blackhawks interested at number or trading up for Michael Misa. Can you put a percentile on what you think would be the odds that that could happen?
I feel like it's like 15% chance. I feel like San Jose, I feel like Mike Greer is a smart guy. I feel like he's only going to move that pick if it really, really makes his organization better and makes a lot of sense. And I think the Hawks would have to give up a decent amount to get that. I don't think Darsh is moving the pick at all. I think new GM, I think you just want to keep that pick the best player available. You don't want to go too crazy and have your fan base being like, what is this guy going to be doing for the next 10 years, right? So I would say it's not likely. Like it's not very likely that those picks get moved, especially in the top 5. So I would say 15% chance, and that might just be me being a little bit optimistic as a Blackhawks fan who has been gassing up Misa for the entire season. So 15%.
I said 20%, but link in the comments or can you comment in the section below if you guys think that we should do trade packages? Uh, because I feel like that would be a really interesting discussion to talk about. Just because, like, I know Korchinski was someone that could potentially be talked about in that, or someone like Lucas Reichel. But yeah, Darsh is probably not moving off. Mike Greer is very smart, and they've already built up a lot. And Igor Chernyshov had great chemistry with Michael Misa and Saginaw, so it's going to take a lot to
Oh
get him
yeah,
off that
that's
line.
true. I forgot about that.
I just,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Celebrini and Misa is just like if that's your 1-2 punch, that's a deadly 1-2 punch. You still have some questions on defense. Sam Dickinson is your number one defender, isn't ideal. But your 1-2 punch of Misa and Macklin is I'm jealous of that 1-2 punch. Um, so I can't see them taking any other player. If you take any other player from either of those two GMs, your fan base is going to be at your door with pitchforks and torches, right? So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, Misa is a tier above Haggins and Porter Martone. But the thing is, like, Haggins and Porter Martone are probably so close to that next tier, in my opinion. I mean, they were close in so many rankings this year and tiers lists. I think Haggins and Martone are very close. I think it's pick which player you want or which role on the team that you want filled. If you're taking Porter Martone, you're trying to get Connor Bedard there. That player, his wing for the next, 10, 15 years. If you're taking Haggins, I think he's going to solidify himself as that second line center. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be Frank Nazar on the wing with Connor Bedard or Haggins on the wing with Connor Bedard because I don't think that Haggins and Nazar are going to play together. And the thing is,
Hmm.
like, my player count for Haggins is I said Frank Nazar, like a little less fast Frank Nazar with more playmaking and vision and ability because Frank Nazar uses his speed as you see with those breakouts. So they obviously could be an incredible duo together. But I think that also Logan Cooley is one that we had talked about on like just a show I did the other day, as well as Jack Hughes was his player comp. So if you're getting somebody like Jack Hughes in any sort of way, I mean, if he would have went to another league, if he would have stayed in the US NTDP instead of going to NCAA, I think he would have been probably the number one pick, especially since the Islanders got it. He had
Yeah.
37 points in 37 games. It was really tough playing against 22 to 25-year-olds, but this kid is built. I got to talk to him for 20 minutes at the combine. Uh, we were just sitting there and we were seeing all of these incredibly tall people walk past, but he did not look like he was much smaller than them. Like I think like you said, the Ivan Demidov thing was brilliant. He was 5'11". I think he ended up being 6 foot at the combine. I think that was
Yeah,
kind of the
he was
big
close
surprise,
to
right?
it. Yeah. It was like, yeah, like 6, maybe
Yeah.
5'11" and a quarters, but he was a little taller than they thought. Thinking about James Hagens too, I remember somebody saying, can't remember where I was listening to that, how much of it was that he just didn't fit as well as he could have with Perot and Leonard. You have two established older guys who are going to be NHL players who have been at that team, who have been kind of the drivers of that team. And then you have Hagens come in, who's a younger guy who typically wouldn't be in that position, kind of trying to slide in and facilitate between two guys who have kind of been playing it a certain way. And then when Hagens was later switched, I can't remember who he was on a line with later in the season. He did quite well. I'll have to find the name. Um, so I just like I could see there's a couple of variables with Hagens between like maybe he was passing off more than he should have been. Maybe he was passing it to Leonard and Perot as more established guys or playing their game more so. Um, and I could just see a situation where he's dynamite in the NCAA next year. I could see 10 games into the NCAA next year, and we're like, James Hagen should have been the first overall pick.
Yeah,
There was
I
some
could see.
circumstances last year that kind of he didn't hit those ceilings that we thought he could have last year, but there's reasons for that. And I really think that James Hagens could surprise a lot of people in the NCAA next year.
Of that, and I think that you were 100% on. When I look at James Haggins, he took over, obviously knows this, but the Will Smith role. Obviously, Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard had an incredible chemistry together. They look like they just knew where you were going to be at all times. And it's very hard for a player that's 17, 18 years old to come in and be a Will Smith role. I mean, he was the number fourth overall pick, and he had multiple years under his belt with those guys. I think
Mhm.
that it was very unfair to put the high pressure on, you know, somebody like James Haggins when you are having to transition and be you have to adapt to the size, the speed,
Mhm.
and the physicality of the NCAA playing against 22 to 25-year-old men. He did a phenomenal job, in my opinion.
Mhm.
37 points in 37 games. And at the Worlds, Michael Misa wasn't even on the Canada World team. There was a very big chance that if James Haggins, if you go back to that overtime game versus Finland when Teddy Stiga won it, James Haggins was an inch away from ending that entire tournament and getting
Mhm.
gold for the US. If he just lifted that puck a little higher over the goalie's pads, that his draft year would be totally different. This kid was scoring goals in overtime and playoff games. He is clutch. He has said over and over that he watched Patrick Kane growing up. I believe that this guy could be a winger if he doesn't figure it out at center, like the physicality is too
That's
hard in the
that's what I
playoffs.
was wondering about that. I was wondering about that because when I was like looking into when you're looking at what where the Blackhawks are projected at third, you get into these names and then you start getting into reasons of why they don't fit, right? So it'll be like, oh, Martone, oh, he's not a good skater, that doesn't fit Kyle Davidson's MO, no go. And then you Hagens, it's always size. And it's like, okay, so maybe he's not a natural centerman. Can he be a winger? If he's,
Yeah,
one of the highest skilled players in the draft with the best hands in the draft, who's just not whose draft stock's falling a little bit because of his size, and that not transition to the wing. And if that isn't the case, I hate to say it, the more time that goes on, the more I feel that 98 Connor Bedard could be a winger in the NHL.
mhm.
I know that he was a right wing when he played for the World Juniors, when he did that, went on a generational run, scored the best World Junior goal in history. Uh,
An
he
Adam
was
guy. Yeah.
he was right wing to Logan Stankoven. And I can just see Bedard's game kind of being like a Kucherov, Kaprizov, Patty Kane, dynamic playmaking, play driving from the wing. Like he doesn't need to play the center of the ice in order to be this like dynamic, game breaking top 10 player in the NHL. Hopefully he's the center of the ice because we are kind of banking on it. But I think if we take James Haggins, then there's a little bit of like interchangeability between the two. It's like, here, let's try Haggins with Bedard on the right. That's not working. Let's try Bedard in the middle, Haggins on the right, left, whatever. Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking about that. Is there a possibility that Haggins could play the wing, or is it a possibility that we take Haggins and move Bedsy over to the wing, which you can't do with Porter Martone?
Yeah, you absolutely cooked there. Um, I found it interesting that you said Connor Bedard's comps were Kucherov, Kirill Kaprizov, because that was exactly what Michael Misa had said for his wing comps. I
Yeah.
actually followed up with him and asked him who his center comps were, and it was Sidney Crosby as well as Patrice Bergeron. And I actually really
Mhm.
like that because I also asked him what an underrated aspect of his game was, and it was his intensity, his 200-foot game, his defense. I think that he understands how to play it all. His scoring obviously was incredible, but if you look up last year, his defense, it was actually the same thing as Matthew Schaefer. Matthew
Mhm.
Schaefer last year in the OHL had to prove that he could do it on the defensive side because he was always a good defensive player, but everybody just wants to prove more and more every single year. And then this year, it was, oh my, and then last year during the season, it was like, how are you going to get better offensively? This year, he just exploded on the offensive scene, destroyed his point totals from the year before. Misa did the exact same thing. James Haggins, in my opinion, is going to do the exact same thing in the NCAA next year. That's just a prediction, but I feel like it's going to be great. Basically, for the James Haggins thing, I think of him as like he was playing with two all-star point guard, shooting guard types in the NBA,
Mhm.
and he was just playing, he was setting up at the corner for the three. Uh,
Yeah.
he wasn't playing
He's
his
a
complete role.
he's a freshman coming in with two
Yeah,
NHL like ready, like
top
in terms of
prospects.
college players, they're superstars. They're superstar college players. So, you have this young freshman coming in. Of course he's gonna, send it over to the wing a little more than he should have. Of course he's gonna drive the center a little bit less than he should have because he's got Ryan Leonard who's a fucking tank on his right wing. So I can see James Hagens just exploding in the NCAA next year, and a lot of people being like, "Whoa, shit, maybe we shouldn't have taken Caleb Desnoyers." Not that he's not a good
Completely
player,
agree.
but
And Caleb Desnoyers, to your point, his comp was Jonathan Toews. So obviously, I
Mhm.
feel like James Haggins is not a Patrick Kane player, but the thing is, he does a lot of what Patrick Kane possesses. Patrick Kane was just on a higher level. I think Patrick Kane is more of a rich man's James Haggins, but
Mhm.
what James Haggins does is if you get somebody that plays with the same chemistry that kind of clicks with him immediately, I see James Haggins actually being on Connor Bedard line with him, and then you just need like a 6'4". I mean, Vaslav
Nestrasil.
Nestrasil. Yeah, you need Vaslav Nestrasil on that left wing, or put James Haggins on the right, and then Frank Nazar centering or Boisvert centering the second line if he hits, and then you have Frank Nazar there. We have a lot of beef up the middle if we play it correctly. If you get a Michael
Mhm.
Misa, obviously, I think that he would try to the perfect play, in my opinion, would have Bedard be second line right wing, not because of we have a better right wing, just because of if you look at what happened with Tays, you had Tays and Kane. Tays was the number one center. You put Michael
Hayes
Misa there.
also took all the number
Yep.
one matchups, and then that left Kaner to
Yeah,
Showtime
so the
about
second.
versus the second line. Yeah.
I feel that you have Misa on the first line. You put Nazar with him. That's like his kind of Patrick Sharp-esque player. And then you have Connor Bedard on the second line, which you're playing him like top of the line minutes, but it's just about matchups. I think that it was kind of weird that we never even tried him on the second line. Obviously, we have nobody, so the defensive pair is not going to really
Yeah.
change. But we have somebody like a cancer off coming on. I think that he could be a first line player with a like the basically a supporting contributor on the first line, like third
Hmm.
best forward, obviously. But I think that we have the pieces that we had built in 2013, 2015. We have the insane depth. I think that we need that Andrew Shaw type of player, but everybody said
Hmm.
Samuel Savoy, but he just, I don't think it's gonna happen. But the thing is, like
Yeah.
the Blackhawks and what they've built, it kind of is okay to take James Haggins. He's basically the best player that they've been drafting over and over for the last 3 to 5 years. Great skater, playmaker, under 6 feet. Why are we not just saying that this guy's going to be our draft pick? And then on
I
the other
know
side,
if he's six
yeah,
foot, Kyle Davidson's tripping over himself trying to get to the podium to select him.
yeah. And Kyle Davidson's been drafting under 6 feet forwards like they're M&Ms. And now the
Yeah.
one time that there's a superstar version of that, we're like, I don't want him. It's
Yeah,
like trade
let's
him
go with
else.
Frondell, man. Let's go with
Yeah,
Frondell.
and Frondell's great. He's gonna be funny, but I can't stand like this personality type of pick. Who cares? Like
No, I
all
don't
of
care,
these
man.
kids, all of these kids are prospects. They're 17, 18 years old. They are nice. Every single one of them has not had any character concerns at all in this class. So why do we care about personality that much? Like you have no idea.
Dude, I almost want a guy who's like a little like
Edgier.
yeah, he's a little fuck you to his game and a little like, like I met Patrick Kane and he was like a little bit monotone and a little bit kind of like brushed me off a little bit. I was like, all right, like that's the mindset you need to be the best, right? I'm not worried about making friends here. I'm not worried about not burning bridges. I'm just worried about being the best hockey player I can be. I totally agree. They read too much into the personality. Especially these kids have been coached for the last like 3, 4 years on
Yeah.
how to act and like what to say to the media and more than ever. Probably since they were like 8 years old, some of them are taking media classes on how to
Yeah.
impress the media. So
You'd be surprised about that was one of the things that I had heard at the combine at just a bar. Drinks were flowing. They were like, yeah, these kids are super PR trained. I mean, they've
mm,
been PR trained for years. Watch out for the third and fourth round picks and fifth round picks because that's where you're going to get the most spicy takes because
yeah,
they're not as PR trained. And a lot of the third and fifth round picks aren't even invited to the combine. It's only the first 90, and that's the first 3 rounds
yeah,
-6 because obviously 32 times 3, but I think it should be 96 or just invite 100. That's just me. Make the day a
hmm,
little longer, invite more people. But I think that this class is one that you can get size at the end. Mason West is
yeah.
enormous. 6'6". Dude, when I saw that man, I
Dude's in the
started
wrong.
running. He picked hockey a week and a half ago because I was supposed to interview him, and he was actually he couldn't because he was making his decision about football or hockey.
He's
Obviously,
the
the decision was
quarterback,
already
right?
made. Yep, three-star
Yeah,
quarterback. He plays for Fargo. He had a great season, 6'6.25, 6'6" and a quarter. So, and this
it's a
kid is
big boy.
every bit of 6'6" and a quarter. I mean, I think he was like 6'8" in his whatever shoes he was wearing. He was wearing those thick, thick
Yeah,
boys over there.
yeah, big boy.
That kid scares people in the playoffs, and he actually can play. You get like we can draft if you take a Haggins, like we have the 25th pick, the 34th pick, and then the Dallas Stars pick. Where's the Dallas Stars pick? What, 60? What do we got?
Yeah, around there.
62. It's 62. You have a ton of ability to draft as much size as possible. I mean, even if we're drafting right-handed defensemen, there's Peyton Kettles who's 6'5". There's Jacob Rombach who's 6'6". There's Maceo Phillips. I mean, our defensive core is ginormous. Get another
Hmm.
giant. Our forwards can be a little smaller because we have that
Yeah.
incredible defensive prospect pool and they're all huge. I think that this is a really good opportunity. Like Matthew Guard, I've talked to him multiple times this season. That dude is 6'4", playing for the Red Deer Rebels. I mean, I love this kid. He was very productive in the WHL too, and he even said like he could have had a better season. Like
Hmm.
consistency is an issue point production wise, but the dude was playing. He was killing it.
So there's
There are
definitely some
so many people. Go ahead.
opportunity to pick up size. As we're talking about size, I leads me to a question about a particular prospect whose size is both one of his strengths and weaknesses. Leaving the combine, what was your sense on Roger McQueen?
Oh, okay. Roger McQueen
'Cause-
had an absolutely fantastic interview because before the combine, there was talk that he wasn't going to do the bench press and the pull-ups. He actually did everything.
okay,
They said that he's been pain free for about like 40 days or a month, and it was a misdiagnosis with the back injury. So
okay,
the thing is, when I talked to people about it after, they were like, a back injury, you can make one wrong move and it flares up. I was at the combine, I had a 30-pound backpack on me, and I have a L4, L5 herniated disc. I was going to my car before my James Haggins interview. I had about 20 minutes and ended up dropping my bag, but I had to catch it because my computer and all my stuff were in there, and I did. I pulled my back to the point where I couldn't walk for about 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, I had to
oh
call my family.
boy,
I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Now the pain is like gone after waking up for like 3 hours each morning and doing stretches, going to the gym. And I mean, I looked very weird at my hotel gym at the Hyatt. I was like doing some crazy poses and stretches, and I had to try to go in the corner. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And it was, I think the only thing that kind of helped me was the Long Island iced teas. But other than that, like
that'll do
I
it.
was, I was struggling for a long time. I mean, it still hurts. I'm like going like this and this. That's why I'm always moving because my back. With Roger McQueen, like he is 6'5", he's 18. I mean, you start with Caden Lindstrom, it's going to be a concern, but this kid
It's
has
a
top
concern.
five upside. He's top five upside. If he would have
I
stopped
know, but
playing
like,
after his
where do you
first
see
game,
him?
4 goals. Go ahead.
Where do you see him falling because of that? Because like that is, especially with Caden Lidstrom being like so close in everyone's memory, where like everyone's just like, "What the hell was that? Why did you take Caden Lidstrom?" With like knowing that back injury and then how it played out.
Yeah.
How's that
So
gonna affect Mr. McQueen, man?
so two things. First, I want to knock on Columbus, who Artem Levshunov didn't even know what Columbus was. I posted a video of that yesterday from Liz Charles from Flow Hockey. At the combine last year, he was like, "Who's Columbus?" And then they're like, "Blue Jackets." Oh yeah, I know with them. And I thought that was kind of funny. Columbus
Boy,
should have
Artie.
had. Okay, so I one thing before the Roger McQueen thing is, what would you have done if you were Columbus in hindsight? Would you take the Blackhawks first round pick and 34th overall? So third and 34, or you taking Lindstrom? And on the side of that, because obviously you would take the picks, would you take Ivan Demidov or 3 and 34
If I'm Columbus,
if you're the Blackhawks?
I'm taking Demidov. Um, yeah, for both of those answers, just like you should have just taken Demidov. Like Columbus should have taken Demidov. Um, the Hawks should have taken Demidov. Everybody should have taken Demidov. Let's just put that out there.
But
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. I just brain farted there.
No,
Yeah, you go.
my question was like pretty easy, but it's just kind of like interesting because Columbus had a trade offer with the Blackhawks in place, and then they saw Cannon Lindstrom there and they took him. And the thing with Roger McQueen is I think he actually has a higher upside than Cannon Lindstrom. I think
Mhm.
right-handed 6'5" center that doesn't really come often, that has that soft skill, has scoring touch,
When
is
he's
very
on
good.
too, man.
Yep.
Like when he's
He's one of the
going,
best players in this class.
he's going. So it's also the best name in recent history.
Roger
Like,
Lightning McQueen, baby.
yeah, if
Yeah.
he's wearing number 95, that's a top 10. As long as he's if he's
That's
wearing number
aura.
95 and he's like a 60-point player, that's a top 10 jersey sales in the NHL right there. So that's enough to take him
That's
from
the
me.
point. So my biggest takeaway coming out of the combine was that I think teams like Brady Martin more than Roger McQueen, and I'm shocked.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it looks like Martin is gonna go to Utah. Like at 4, he could
it's
go to
either
Utah.
4 or 7. He's not getting past 7, basically what I'm hearing. He's not going to get past.
That's Bruins,
Don,
right?
yep, Don Sweeney's taking that man. And I would be terrified for the league if they get Martin. He's a top 6 player that's going to destroy you and beat the crap out of you in the playoffs. And if I have no idea why Utah would trade or pick him for. I mean, he was somebody that they could have just had 14. Or actually, maybe Utah just fell in love with him in the process when they were looking at 14, and then now that they're at 4, they're like, hey, maybe they were trying to look to
Yeah,
trade up.
we'll still just take our guy.
So maybe that's the case. Obviously, he was asked if the playoffs and the style of play has helped his draft stock. He said, of
Mhm.
course. Like I He's somebody that grew up on a farm. That dude is farm tough. He still has a ton of chores at the farm to do. So
Like the
they were,
Sutter boys.
yeah, they were piling up on him when he was at the combine. He was like, he was nervous. He said he hoped his brothers were taking the responsibility, but he doesn't think they would. He was like, I still probably got a ton of
It's a
chores to
man
do.
who
So
takes care of business right there. That's
exactly.
you know there's one NHL exec who's just gushing over the fact that he's like one of the Sutter juniors right there.
Yeah. At 170 pounds too. That man could hit like a train. He said he was a bull on ice for the Habs question because the weirdest question in the combine is the Habs, what animal would you be?
I saw that.
And he said he would have been a bull, but I don't think it's that weird of a question. I don't know what I would be, probably an owl or something. But
Yeah,
yeah, I just
I,
think that Brady Martin over Roger McQueen. Who would you rather have?
McQueen's higher ups. I mean, like the injury scares me. I like the idea of McQueen. Like I like the idea. Like if he's still there at 15, there's a part of me that would like want to trade up for to
Yeah.
take a swing at that. Like I think we could take a swing with our later pick, but I doubt he's still there. Like you said, he's top five talent or top five player in this draft. It's just that back that really, really kind of scares people. So he's probably still a top 10 player in all seriousness. Um, when you were leaving the draft or kind of as you were within the draft, did you get a sense of where the Blackhawks were looking? Like, did you like was because you see Frondell's name like all over the internet, way more than like Haggins or Martone. Was there any of that kind of at the combine that you could hear or feel, or was it more just focused on kind of the prospects' individual traits and stuff like that?
You know, it's interesting. I actually followed the Blackhawks beat reporters because when I was there, I was like, well, they're going to know a little more who they're going to take. So I
Yeah,
was already
absolutely.
interviewing all the prospects. But um, when I saw one of the Blackhawks beat reporters go and who he was interviewing, it was like Caleb Desnoyers, and I heard a
Mhm.
lot of Caleb Desnoyers. I heard that Utah could potentially love Caleb Desnoyers, and they might be trading down. So if they are trading
Okay.
down but love Desnoyers and now are into Brady Martin, is it because the Blackhawks want? It's all putting pieces together, but is that because the
Mhm.
Blackhawks want Caleb Desnoyers? They love personality. They love a player that can it be a true center. I mean, he would be a
Yeah.
second line center for us for the next 10 to 15 years, or a top line center if they just okay. So think about the value of Day Norier as our number one center, and then you put
Mhm.
Bedard as the right wing. So that's basically what Ryan Poles of the Chicago Bears would call a you get it's a double advantage, or you improve in two areas by picking one area. So if
Okay.
you take an offensive line, it also helps your run game. So you're helping
Yeah.
your passing and your run game. So it's just interesting. It's a multiplier.
Yeah.
Will Desnoyers be a multiplier for the Blackhawks? Because if you're taking Frondell, that could also be a multiplier. You're getting a
Mm.
true left wing for Frank Nazar, in my opinion, because of the playmaking, or you're getting a center for Frank Nazar, then having Frank Nazar play with Connor Bedard in the regular season, and then put him down uh, because I don't think it'll work in the playoffs. So you would play Frondell and Nazar. So I'm thinking about multipliers. Who's a multiplier? Haggins is a multiplier. You can have him at center for your second line center for the next 10 years, or you can have him at right wing with one of the hard part with Haggins, and I will say this is our best player is 5'10. Our second best player is probably 5'9. And then our third
Mm.
best player, or maybe our second best player, if he overtakes Frank Nazar, is 5'11.
Yeah, our
It's
forward core
top three
is
players.
is
Yeah.
like a daycare center, boys. Like we
Yeah.
we don't have any size in the forward core, um, which puts us in a situation where like we're almost drafting for that need, above best player available. Not that we should, but it's certainly being taken into consideration a lot more than if we had a prospect pool full of 6 foot guys. You know, if it was full of if Bedard was 6'1" and Haggins or Nazar was 6 foot, then you know we're probably okay with taking Haggins. But that's not the case. We got a bunch of 5'10" guys, and it's like, oh shit, when's the last time somebody won a Stanley Cup with sub 5'11" centers? Like, oh, never? Like, okay. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then like Yeah, so it is tough, and Desnoyers for me kind of came out of nowhere a little more than the other prospects. Like we knew about Haggins coming into this year, we thought he was going to be the number one. Martone was a guy who was on my radar, or all of our radars. But Desnoyers was that kind of that guy for me, at least that kind of he's come out of nowhere at the last minute, and it's like his name is almost one of the loudest, right? He wins the Guy Lafleur Trophy as the Hume JHL playoff MVP, decent in the Mem Cup. Then you find out he's got two bum wrists, and it's like, oh wow, like what this kid does with two bum wrists. Like imagine him at full stock, and it's interesting for me. For me, like I think I want Frundell more than I want Desnoyers. Like I
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like to me, Desnoyers and Frondel are both in their own tier. Like I'm doing Misa, Hagens, Martone, Frondel, Desnoyers.
That's
Um,
exactly mine. That's exactly mine.
I feel like a lot of Hawks fans are in that boat, where it's like just take Martone or Hagens and we'll be happy. But because of this whole small forward prospect group and all this, like the Dano and no centers, like there is a chance that we don't have any centers in our prospect pool right now. There is a chance, as much as it kills me to say, that Bedard is not a center and Frank Nazar is not a center, and we are desperate for a center. So we're in a bit of a predicament here that might end up meaning taking somebody that we might not have. Um, I just want to see who the pick's going to be, man. I'm so tired of waking up every day and just like trying to grasp at any little piece of information that points me in the right direction.
Wow.
You and it's there's always like contradicting reports too, and it's like we're cooked, we're so back. We're not trading for this guy. We're trading up for this guy. He's not touching Chicago. Chicago's going to push heavily for him. It's always back and forth, back and forth. And so I just give me to June 27th when we're very happy to select, and just give me the name and just let me start gassing that kid up because that's the direction we need to go.
You know, I went to NHL Tankathon, and now I'm kind
Yep.
of freaking out because I saw they have a clock on there, and I was just so focused and locked in on the combine and like just getting through a good combine, learning that experience and everything. And I did not realize there's only 18 days
Like two
until the
weeks away,
draft.
man. We're like 2 weeks away.
Holy
And in like a
crap.
week and a half, we're gonna like the picks are gonna be like we're gonna know like it's gonna be like, yeah, it's between these two guys. You're
Yeah.
gonna be seeing tweets of like, yeah, Chicago's picking Frondell or Chicago's picking
Yeah.
Higgins. Like you're gonna see that within
That's
like a week and a half.
I have so many interviews that oh my, that is not enough time. But
Yeah, man, gotta grind.
to your point, like the Blackhawks are in a really good spot here because obviously they know that Schaefer and Misa is going 1 and 2. It's not a on the clock decision. Some
Mm,
teams, like if you're drafting at 9, you have your draft board, but you have no idea how it's going to play out. Obviously, you're doing
exactly.
all those simulations. The Blackhawks know. The
Yeah.
Blackhawks know. And say that say the Islanders, it's a Shane Wright situation, and the Islanders somehow go with James Haggins and don't trade the pick and
Yeah.
get free
Last minute
assets.
just kind of change up,
Yeah,
something comes out, they end
yeah,
up going Hagens. Who's the first to benefit?
the
Your
Hawks.
Chicago
Actually, the
Blackhawks.
Sharks first with
Yes,
Schaefer.
yes.
And then actually I think
Yeah.
obviously the Hawks would benefit the most, but Sharks would be right up there because the
Equal with Sharks, man. Getting Schaefer, that's
well
what like.
because
Sorry,
go
as
ahead.
a Hawks fan, it kind of seems like we have a little bit of a rivalry starting to brew with San Jose, especially with the Macklin versus Bedard comparisons. To me, like the idea of a 1-2 punch with Macklin and Misa is scary, but then it's like, okay, let's look at their defense, and it's Sam Dickinson pairs in as their number one defensive prospect. My brain, Vlasic, Levshinov, Renzel are all better than Sam Dickinson. So our top three defensemen are already better than your number one. In theory, if it all plays out how we think. Um, our forward core still not at that level. I would argue just 'cause, I don't know, a Celebrini's such a complete centerman, and Misa could end up being that way too. Um, Obviously, I think Bedard is a higher offensive ceiling than both. But where was I going with that? I just kind of had a brain fart.
Sharks
I
versus
don't know.
Blackhawks. I want to like honestly, you bring up a great point because the thing about it is what I was talking about was like obviously the Sharks are going to benefit a ton. Like you are
Mhm.
right. Schaefer would be
Yeah, that's
probably
the
the
point I was
best
trying to make.
defenseman.
Adding that is like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like now they're deep in every position, or
What
they have
I
a guy
was
in every position.
Schaefer was better than Sam Dickinson, and he's 2 years younger at the Worlds. When
Hmm.
he left the Worlds due to that injury with the collarbone, they looked like crap. I'm not gonna lie. The breakout passes were just not there. They had like zero offense
At the
generated
World
from their
Juniors, are you
defensemen.
talking about? Like the Yeah, the World
Yeah,
Juniors
yeah,
at
World
around Christmas.
Juniors.
Yeah, when he got injured.
Yeah,
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 yeah. No, Dickinson didn't look great, and I think he is a good player. He's just always been on a really good London Knights team. So you wonder how indicative that is. Not that he's
yeah.
not a great player, but it's just um, Schaefer is looking like
Schaefer's a
he's going to
star
be a
virtually.
top 10, yeah, top 10 defenseman like, virtually within like 3 years is what people are projecting.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's a so
But
he.
Chicago, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Schaefer going to San Jose scares me a little bit more in a rivalry sense versus Misa. I would rather Misa on the Blackhawks, but in terms of who goes to San Jose and kind of propels
Yeah.
that rivalry, I would rather Misa go to San Jose than Schaefer because then they're a little bit defensively thin, if that's the
Yep.
case.
I completely agree with you. The thing is, Chicago would go from getting a tier one player to a tier two player. So that's where my idea, because the San Jose
Yeah,
Sharks would still get tier one and still get tier one, in my opinion. Like Schaefer and Misa are right there. I think it's interchangeable who you can pick because if Chicago
yep,
had the number one pick, they're taking Misa. If the Sharks had the number one pick, they're taking Schaefer.
and Schaefer.
Um, Obviously, the Sharks would benefit a ton. I think it would be the perfect situation for every single player. And then even from five down, because the Islanders would take Haggins, San Jose would take Schaefer, Chicago takes Misa, and then Utah loves Desnoyers. They take
Yeah,
Desnoyers. Nashville falls into the lap of James Haggins, and then you have Philadelphia getting Porter Martone or Frondell, and then Boston getting the one that they don't take. So that is the perfect outcome. They
team
probably all love
except
that.
the Islanders because the Islanders are not taking the best player,
Yep, yep. But I think
but they're
that,
getting the hometown kid. So we gotta gas
and they
that
sell
up.
jerseys, and they sell the jerseys. I mean, even James Haggins was
And
asked
man,
about the
I
bumper stickers.
did you see? I don't know if you saw it. I posted a thing on the hockey news that they posted, and it was like Misa versus Haggins. It was like a graphic that was in the hockey news, and Haggins cleared. Haggins cleared. It was like puck sense, like physicality, like skill set, and Haggins won like 5-2 to 2 or something like that. So, and when
Over
looking
Misa?
to Yeah, and then looking too at that athletic article that came out earlier today, there's a handful of scouts that said Haggins is their best forward. I mean, the forwards are all over the place. It's mostly Misa, but you get a couple Haggins and one Frondell, and so there
I
is
didn't
a
know that.
possibility that Haggins is the guy. Probably not, but
I think it's more
we
about
can
fit with
pray.
Haggins. But
Yeah,
you bring up a good point. I think Haggins was my number one player for most of the year. Misa
mm.
just shot up because of his production level and what he was
Yeah.
doing in the
Two
O.
points per game is disgusting.
Yeah. But if you go back to a knock on Misa, Hockey Canada does not particularly like him. I know it's a lot of
Politics. There's a lot of
yeah,
politics in Hockey
that's what
Canada.
I was gonna say, but I was hesitant to say it, but I think I appreciate you for saying it. But it is tough because he would have helped them out a lot and they might have won. If we would have seen this is a weird draft because if we
He's
would have
the
seen
top
Michael
player. He was the
Misa,
top point scorer in the CHL. I'm a
yeah,
Canadian, so this is true to my heart. Why the
yeah,
fuck aren't you taking the top point scorer in the entire CHL on your Team Canada team? You're gonna
yeah,
take Carson Raycroft, but you're not gonna take Michael Misa. Like what? Who's paying who? You know, like it's the same as with minor hockey all across the country. It's all about whose wallet is getting filled up, and it's ridiculous. Just take the best player available.
yeah.
Enough of these politics. If I see Easton Cowan on the team next year, I'm gonna drive a fucking Tonka truck through my front door. Oh my lord.
And he was the star of the mem. But
Yeah, he had
still,
like 8 pump fakes per breakaway. It was ridiculous. I'm sure he's gonna be a great player. I
yeah,
don't know how you don't select Michael Misa. Like it's either he is like either there in Hockey Canada is incredibly like they're just not thinking straight. Their mind is not in the right place. They're not picking players with the right criteria, or there's
Mhm.
something super glaring behind the scenes about Michael Misa. One of those things has to be true.
And it's
Probably the
not
former.
glaring about Michael Misa. That man
No, seems like
kept.
a
Yeah.
great kid, like who looks up to Sidney Crosby and people. So, um,
Michael Meese is going to be the next star center. It's just going to
yeah,
happen. He always was like this. And say he's a winger. Who gives a crap's ass? I mean,
I
people are
don't give a
talking about
shit.
this. Yeah, dude, if he's Kirill Kaprizov, Kucherov, that's not a bust if he's not a center. Who cares? I
Yeah.
think we look too much into that. It's just the person that's taking faceoffs and is playing in the center of the ice. If he wants to just weave a little bit and go to the wings some games because it's not working, the coaches can do that. It's up to the coaches to put these players in positions to succeed. Like the versatility actually makes it better because there's more of a floor there. So I never mind when a player can play wing or center. I think it's just better. Obviously, it's like Ben Zobrist when he was with the Cubs, like to a higher degree because these players are superstars, but
We're
he
acting
helped us.
like too like only centermen can be like starter stars in this league. Like when it's like it's consistently wingers who are driving. How many times has Kucherov led the league in points this year? That's like you've got Pasternak, Marner, Kyle Connor. Like you've got all these dynamic wingers who drive play. Pasternak, Kaprizov, Kucherov, Patrick Kane, like by Mitch Marner. I'm repeating names, but like just because he's a winger doesn't mean that he can't drive play. Like if Michael Misa,
Yep.
it turns out he's the left wing for his entire career, that doesn't scare me off drafting him. Even if I'm the Islanders, like that doesn't scare me off of drafting him.
Keep cooking.
So yeah, it's we can't. So what if he's a wing? So's Ovechkin. So I don't know. Kucherov, when did he get picked? Kucherov was like
Well,
a third round pick.
Ovechkin's a bust because he's not a center. You know, those goals didn't
Yeah,
count.
exactly. It's just I don't know. It definitely gets overlooked. I feel like in draft year, draft time in general, so many things is bit like because it's a game of inches and like you're trying to decipher between such tight margins, you do start nitpicking these little things, like the QMJHL being this lesser league to the point where like people are talking about the QMJHL as if superstars can't come out of the QMJHL. It's like we know that's not the case. We've seen
Kucherov
superstars
did.
come out of this league. Kucherov came out of there, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Noah Dobson. Like there's all these great players who've come from the QMJHL. And it's no different. Like maybe it's a little softer. Like maybe there's some like little truth that there's no fighting, and it might be a little bit more of a skill-driven league than the WHL. But like it just gets overblown, and it's the same with size. It's the same with their position. You end up picking guys who are a 6 foot center over the guy who's a 5'11" winger just because of these little tiny intangibles. So I don't know. I love prospects, and it's like one of my favorite things to kind of dive into the draft and kind of see where it's going to go. But it's at the end of the day, it's still always going to be a little bit of a throwing darts at a wall and hoping they
Crapshoot.
stick. Regardless of how much you look into it, it's always going to be a little bit of luck involved. And I do think people get a little too nitpicky, me included. So there's my little TED talk, my little rant,
That was
and really just
awesome.
leading into the idea that no matter who we take here, no matter who the Blackhawks grab at 3, we're gonna get a player who's gonna help us be successful. You look at any of Anton Frondel, Caleb Desnoyers, Porter Martone, James Haggins, and I'll whisper Michael Misa because I'm hoping that that's the pick. Any of them are gonna make this team better. None of them are gonna make this team worse. And none of them are such an egregious pick that we need to vote to shoot Kyle Davidson into the sun if we make that pick. If we pick Frondell, it's not we're not calling for Kyle Davidson, to be shot into space, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point because it's just the third overall pick. I think people are getting a little scared. We're going to get a great cornerstone player, and we have an assortment of picks. Let's talk about this. Like, we have 12 picks. Okay, so obviously with the third pick, but other than that, we have 11 more picks in the first 2 rounds of the next 3 years. That's 2 rounds. That's 12. That is 6 picks per, like, that is
Yeah, we have
three.
so many picks and we have so many
That's four
prospects
picks
too. We're
per
picking
draft.
like 3 times per first round, like every single year that Davidson's in here. Like we can't have all
Yep,
these guys too. Like we have Vanacker, we have Lardis, we have Spalacy, we have Oliver Moore, we have Cancerov, we have Jack Pride on it, we have like all like Howard Samuel Savoie, like John Mustard, like yeah, on and on and on. Like we not that all these guys are gonna be players, but at some point, I think
they are.
I
It
yeah,
might not even be
we
for
just
us, but they're assets, you know?
exactly. And we
And
can't play
look,
them all. We just the
to your point,
reality
look at
of
what
it.
we did with Isaac Phillips. Isaac Phillips was
Dang.
nothing for us, and then we dished him for Dmitry Kuzmin. And the thing that we only did that because of to I guess not only reason, but it was to get Artem Levshunov a friend there too. And then as soon as
Yeah.
he came there the first game, he passed Artem Levshunov the puck for a goal. It helps these guys' confidence.
Hell yeah.
Obviously, that was a one-off situation, and Kuzmin is young, but look at what we did with that I think people aren't talking about this enough, but Shea Weber. We got the Shea Weber contract to help get to the cap full, but we also got somebody named Victor Soderstrom, who is one of the
10th
best players in
overall
the
pick.
SHL. Yep. He is a top 10 pick. They traded, I believe they traded up for him or they wanted to, and they loved this guy. Like, he is somebody that I talked to a couple SHL players,
Or
like
11th
Mash,
overall.
Milton Gastrin and couple other players, and they said like he is the one of the best defensemen in the entire league. He actually won the award for that. He is NHL ready. If you get this guy in 2026, I think he could be a really good right-handed third pair defenseman. I actually think he could be a top four defenseman, but you're not beating out. I'm sorry, you're just not beating
Rizal.
Zell and Artie. Yeah, no, you're not.
No, you're not. I agree.
So you have like EDM, Nolan Allen, Kaiser. Those three guys are all probably third pair defensemen on other teams. I think EDM actually might be top four left-handed defenseman
Yeah,
if
I
we're
was gonna
being
say
honest.
I think EDM's ceiling is your second pair lefty.
But the
Like I
thing is,
think he could
who is he replacing? Because Korchinski or Vlasic, and Vlasic's ain't going anywhere.
no Vlasic's your
Free. We
his
got him for free, basically.
yeah, exactly.
On that
Korchinski's a little more
contract,
interesting because I know there's rumblings within the organization last year that there might be some faith being lost in Korchinski being the number one defenseman of the future.
it's
And
not.
I think
He
that
would never be.
played, yeah, I think that played into that Levshinov um, selection. But like we have 3 bona fide defensemen. We have EDM who could slide in there. I think we're in such a good place with our defense. I think in you look at our defense in like 6 years, it's gonna be the envy of the league.
Who are your top six defensemen of the Blackhawks' future, in your opinion? Like ranking wise?
Damn, top 6. Um,
Like I could start off first if you want me to go, and
like
then you could think about it.
with yeah, you go first just to show me what to expect, and then I'll fill in.
So I would say I would put based on upside, like pure upside, I think it would be Levshinov, Rinzel, Vlasic, but I think they could also be like top pair players. And then it would
Hmm.
be Korchinski at four, and then EDM at five. And based on upside, like I think the three players that are in consideration here are Kaiser, Soderstrom, and Allen. And I think Allen is
Uh,
on one foot out the door. Um,
yeah, I think Kaiser would be in over Allen and Soderstrom. I don't know as much
yeah.
about if but I definitely
Well, I
would lean
think
Kaiser over Allen in terms of just organizational.
Kyle
But
Davidson said two. Kyle Davidson said 2 years ago Kaiser was a part of the core, and
mm,
obviously that changed a lot in the last 2 years. I think Kaiser would probably get the nod over Soderstrom, but if
mm,
Soderstrom signs, I think he's going to make a huge impact for us. Like I think he
mm,
is that good of a player. I think look at his numbers if you haven't seen in the SHL. Anyone that's watching, he killed it. His point production was awesome, and he was the best defenseman in the entire league. And that's playing against men, and he's still 22 something. So 23.
mm.
Like he was
Yeah,
he
he had
didn't want
37 points in 49 games.
yeah.
That's good. That's a lot higher than I thought it was.
I put together a clip of highlights of him and not to promote it because I don't even care. if you guys watch it, every single time I like watched his clips on Insta to try to get that footage, I was like, this guy is legit. He is so good. He understands the game. The what was it? The Coyote or not the Coyotes? Utah maybe or Vancouver? Oh yeah, Vancouver. We got him from the Canucks, and the Canucks didn't want to trade him. They wanted. Or wait, who did we get?
Yeah,
Was it
we
the
got him from
Canucks
Arizona. We got him from Arizona, I think.
or Utah? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
Because
that
that's our.
screws me up. Yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries.
Utah didn't want him at all. Um, I
No.
mean, no, sorry. Utah didn't want to trade him at all. It was all about contract dispute. So I think that's something too.
Huh.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
they
we
wanted
might
to
see.
sign
So
him
when's this contract up? Is it this year?
2026
Okay, so
next
he's
year.
one more year in Sweden,
Yeah.
and then okay, so I could, yeah, I could see him sliding in that kind of may second pair, maybe if there's space on the left side or one of the other guys wants to play their opposite side. Not ideal, but maybe, and then like could be the perfect third pair shutdown guy. And then if you have your entire right side set, your top two, you're set. I love how our defense looks.
Yeah.
I would
100%.
agree with those rankings. Um, I mean, I might put Renzel higher than Levshunov. I
Yeah, I was
think
thinking that, man.
to me it's like hard because I know Levshunov is such a raw prospect. Like he jumped from Gamblers to what was this?
Great
So Michigan.
Belch.
He went from Belarus to the Gamblers to Michigan to the AHL, like all within a couple seasons. And it's just he has a trajectory you don't typically see. So it's not as easy to project out like what he's going to look like next year or the years to come. But Renzel blew my expectations out of the water. I was high on Renzel. Like I thought he was going to come in and be our second pair right shot defenseman right away. And I'm still tempering my expectations because we know Frank Nazar came in at the end of the season, did amazing, and then he ended up being an AHL player to start the next season. So I don't want to like go in and be like Renzel's a lock to be our number one defenseman. But
Yeah.
when he was up here for the end of the season, Sam Renzel was our best player, maybe. Like not even he was our best defenseman. He might have been our best player. Maybe Nazar, but Renzel blew expectations out of the water, and I think Frank Saravelli was right that he is going to make a Brock Faber like impact in the NHL right away. Yeah, so
I
I would say
really
Renzel.
I really like that. It, thing about the Levshinov Rinzel thing is I think that they're both top pair in my opinion. I don't think that
Yeah,
there's
me
two
too.
spots. You have Vlasic on a 4.6 million. I wish it was longer. I wish it was a year, maybe 2 years longer, but 4.6 for the next 5 years. Obviously, that's he's going to be 29 or something when it ends. I think that's a really good just to get him on that
Yep.
value. So you have three top defensemen that you can have on your team for a very long time because Vlasic is already locked up. Sam Renzel is multiple years older, and his draft year was in 2022 rather than 2024. So that's 2 years
True.
of just playing. So
So
that's the
it's
reason
yeah.
I say Lev Shinup. But I think Artie should
No,
have.
you're
I
right.
think Renzel should have been the better defenseman. But the thing is, he was not supposed to be. He was picked 25 as a project, a high school player. The fact that if you think about Korchinski at 7 and say, "Oh, we wasted draft value," put Frank Nazar at 7, put Renzel at 13, and then put Korchinski at 25. It changes that entire draft.
Home run.
Home runs. Yeah, that changed our organization, and that was KD's Kyle from frickin' Chicago, man. Get ready to learn deep dish when he drafts you because you're gonna be here a long time. That man hits. He hits. Everybody was mad at Boyva, whatever.
Boivay, I think, or
Boy.
Beauvoir, something like
Yeah,
that. I don't know. French
I gotta go
sounding.
on
That's what I know.
Duolingo. Yeah, he hit on him. We couldn't have taken Trevor Connolly. I just want to say that we couldn't have, and we could not have taken Cole Eiserman, even though I know that we could have. But look at what Nick Lardis did.
Yeah, we got Cole Eiserman. His name's Nick Lardis.
Exactly. So we got the right player. Sasha B is going to be an incredible third line center for us. And if he hits like superior, like the
Yeah,
greatest hit
he
of
could
all
be
time,
2C. He could
be
be 2C.
2C. He could be Caleb Desnoyers light. Um, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think they
Yeah.
play similar ways, but I think that they can fill the
He's a
similar
beefy
roles.
center with a little bit of fuck you to his game who can put the
Hmm.
puck in the back of the net. Like I could see him as I like a I don't know, not Chris Kreider because he's not a winger, but like that kind of
Yeah.
style that younger Chris Kreider would play, where he was just driving the net. He was a goal scorer. He was just a pain to play against. I think Beauvoir. I think he's a lock to be 3C. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't
That
commit to
dude can do it
BU.
all.
Is it BC or BU? But you don't get committed to BC or at either of the Boston teams without being a hell of a player.
I think he's going to Boston University, and
Yeah,
he's
it's
going to be
BU.
joined by Murtag. I'm just going to list off the names I have here. He's going to be Jack Pridham, maybe. I'm just going to say maybe, but he could go with Blackhawks prospect Jack Pridham. He could go with Sasha Boumediene. He could go with Simon Wang, Carter Amico. So Simon Wang and Carter Amico are combined 13.1 inches, 6'5" and 6'6". You
Oh,
have
damn.
Conrad Fondrek. You have Charlie Trethway at BU. These are just their commits this year. And it's just, yeah. So Boumediene, and that's a loaded team. They're going to be going a long way in the Frozen Four. And then you have Penn State getting literally everybody. So it's going to be fun to play in the NCAA. I think that the way to go, just for this quick thing, is NCAA, not CHL right now, because NCAA is going to give you money and you're playing the best competition. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so the final thing, because I have another show in 10
Yeah,
minutes that I
yeah,
got to
no
go to.
worries.
So who do you think that we are going to take at 25
Who I think we're gonna take versus who I
or options?
for me, uh, I want Vaclav Nestrasil at 25. Um, I just he's who I want. Um, Shout out Max Long, who got me on the Nestrasil train a few months back. Um, like I said, 6'5" frame, and a guy who's just he's looking to make plays when the game is late and you need something to happen. Nestrasil's the type of guy who wants to pick the team up and put it on his back. He's the guy who wants to make these plays in the ozone. He's what we call in the industry a gamer. So Nestrasil is exactly who I want. I mean, there might be a little bit of a argument if Spence falls there. I like Malcolm Spence's game. Um, but I still think I like Nestrasil more. I think I don't know. It's that want to put the game on his back and that want to create that really leads me towards Nestrasil. So I'll just lock in at Nestrasil 25. Maybe Malcolm Spence if he's still there.
I love Nestrasil, and I think his upside is a little higher than Malcolm Spence, but I think Malcolm Spence is more of a floor complete player, as well as I think it's
Yeah,
going to be his floor is so
he'll
much higher.
probably go before Nestrasil.
Hmm.
The only thing that like kind of makes me say that is I've seen a few scouting reports that say like Spence is a safe player, which like isn't
Yeah,
necessarily a bad thing. Like he's the type of guy to make a good play, but he's not gonna be like Nestrasil and just be like, you know what? I'm gonna make this fucking play. I'm gonna make the toe drag and send in the zone and try to open up
yeah.
some space to win this game. He's gonna dump it in, go get it. You know, meat and potatoes hockey, but Nestrasil is he's got a knack for the big moments, and that's what I think that's what we need at 25.
Malcolm Spence is, if he hits, he's going to be a supporting star. So going to Michigan, it's going to really help his development with Hage and one of his good friends, Jack Ivankovich, and he's been skating with these guys for a very long time. So Hage and him are very good friends. That was also one of the reasons that he had committed there. Malcolm Spence, in
Yep.
my opinion, is I ranked him 12 earlier in the year, and then I think
Yep.
he's probably 15, 16. I love
Yeah.
this kid. He is a playoff player, played incredibly well. Him and Martin Misiak were carrying Erie Otters on their freaking
Love that.
back at the playoffs. He's an or
Yeah.
he's an I said that he plays with aura. I didn't really understand what that meant 2 months ago. I just kind of saw it because I saw
Yeah.
it, so I said it. It's the intensity he plays with. It's how he understands how to mold his game. He can play any style of game if that's what's going to happen, but he plays a playoff role. His comp was Carter Verhaeghe, and I love that because Carter Verhaeghe is the type of person that's going to win
Yeah.
you playoff games.
He's
Yep.
a playoff player. Elite prospects. Has
Look
his
at who's
shade
going to
is
win.
Jake Neighbors too. Jake Neighbors is I love Jake Neighbors' game. Just a disruptive, a high intelligent winger. You know, good
Disruptive is
like
the word I was looking for.
yeah, and like has good habits. Like he is how he plays the game instinctively is um kind of at the pro level. And part of me saying Nestersil over Spence too is like I don't think there's a chance Spence gets to 25. Um, but yeah, no, Spence would be great. Spence is who I wanted at 25 before Maxwell Long sold me on Nestersil. Shout out
Shout out
Max.
Max.
But yeah, we want Nestersil. We want Vaclav in a Hawks jersey like he used to be back in the day.
If this is the greatest scenario that would happen at the draft, if the Blackhawks get one of Haggins or Porter Martone, and then at 25 get Malcolm Spence, and then at 34 get Vaslav
Nestersil.
Nestrasil, I
Dude,
I would do a 24-hour live stream. That
cheeks if that
happens.
happens, bro. That's I'm tweeting cheeks if that happens. That would be like almost the same as no, it's not the same at all, but I would be like as excited as if they made a trade up into the top 10. Like I don't know. I would
Another
just be
one.
so excited I wouldn't be able to contain myself. Even if we get Nestersil at 34,
Yeah.
I'll be over the moon. But if we
I'm
somehow
not
ended
doing a
up with
24-hour
Spence,
live stream.
Martone, Spence, and Nestrasil, you're looking at a complete overhaul of our prospect core. All of a
Yes.
sudden, we're just like, oh my god, these guys are huge up front. We're the fucking Florida Panthers if we make that draft. So I'll take that. I'll take that.
It would be if you can if we I will say this. If I will say this. I know Carl Davidson is watching because he probably loves our content. No, I'm kidding. If James Haggins is available and you have inside information that Vaslav Nestrasil will at least be there at 25, you take James Haggins and you take Nestrasil. That is what you should do. Obviously, I'm a Nestrasil homer. I love this kid. I just see it. I
Mhm.
actually just see it. He could bust, but you got to take that home run hit with 12 first, second round picks in the next 3 years. Like he is the ideal pick. Like when I think of perfect fits on my
Yep.
dartboard, that's who I'm throwing at. That is the triple 20, right? Not the bullseye. You go triple 20 with this kid because
Yep.
I just feel like it's a home run pick. It's better than a bullseye. Obviously a bullseye would be safer floor, but I think
Yep.
Nesterso would be an incredible third line player too if he doesn't fully. He is raw as
Okay.
heck. He has high Aki IQ, but he's been around the game for a long time. I did an interview with him. This will be the last thing because I got to close out. But his brother was drafted in the third round of the Red Wings. This kid had four brothers that all played hockey. His dad played hockey. This guy is coached. He was skating on the ice at 2 years old. Like, like I told Chris Peters, I would have made the NHL, but I sprained my pinky when I was in fourth grade. Like, he could have overcome that, you know. Um,
He is a dog, man. He's a shades of Electri Protras, he says. Hardworking winger, creativity, handling, flashes of high-end thinking, and an increasingly violent side.
I don't think I've ever asked him who his comp was.
Yeah, I never
Out of
even
all the
looked, but
times I've talked to
Alexei
him.
Protras had a hell of a year and was a total buzzsaw nail gun out there. So
Yeah.
if we can get a buzzsaw at 25th overall at Nestrasil, sign it up, throw away the keys, make it happen,
Let's do
Kyle
it. Yeah.
Davidson. We need the sexy pick this year. No more Lev Shinov. We love Lev Shinov, but we need redemption from the Demidov pick last year, Don. We need this fan base feeling good. We need this fan base feeling sexy. We need to take the sexy pick, draft Martone, draft Haggins, draft the best player available. None of this overthinking shit. And let's just get back to the glory days.
That's going to be the starting clip right there. Thank you so much, Ovi, for absolutely killing this. Like you know puck. You
It's
talked
been a
my ear
pleasure,
off. I
man.
love talking about this stuff is awesome. You can see the passion in your voice and the eyes, and everybody
Yes,
can now
sir.
see that. So just tell them where they can find you and shout out your people.
Yes, sir. Ovi Clapbomb on Twitter. Boys already know where to find me. Shout out Goons Day. Hashtag FreeNaz. We'll see you on the other side, boys.